Hi there! If you are actually watching this video somehow, and you somehow managed to find my channel, which if you did, you're probably from my anime list, which if you are, cool! There is a reason why I made that post, and I do want my channel to be seen by other anime enthusiasts like myself. For one reason, today, right now, in this video, if you can read the title, which you probably did, because if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be watching my video. And if you were not watching my video, I would be really sad, but you probably won't know that I'm sad because you're not watching my video, obviously. Yeah. As the title of this video most likely implies, unless something goes terribly wrong in the processing of this video and I completely mess something up, I'm going to be talking about my 5 personal recommendations and personal animes that I am looking forward to heavily this spring 2017. There are no real particular order, just based on things I've heard about them, the previews, whether or not I've read the manga, and if that's good or not. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and let's get right into it. Basically, the way this video is going to work is I'm going to be pretty much using my anime list as I guess, a information supply. And so if any of the anime I talk about is based off of a manga or a light novel, then I will go ahead and say something about that. Whether or not I've read it, that is debatable, because I'm pretty sure I've only read a couple of the mangas for the ones I will talk about soon, but we'll get into that. So, start off the bat, our first one is... I don't know how I'm going to do this bit, honestly, I don't know if I'm going to edit. Whatever. Clockwork Planet. Now, this anime seems really steampunky, very sci-fi, very fantasy. The one preview that, as far as I am aware, as I've made this video, I've only seen one preview of it, and it didn't really show off much of like character, much action, but what it did like kind of sell me on was really well done. Well, in my opinion, I believe it was really well done animation of like gears turning like in a clockwork tower, which hence the name Clockwork Planet. Now, a cool little tidbit of information about Clockwork Planet is recently, for those of you who follow up with Loot Crate or Loot Crate Anime, Loot Anime actually sent out a Clockwork Planet Volume 1 manga with their latest loot box, which is kind of cool, so I actually now own that manga. So far what I've heard of is that Clockwork Planet is actually not based on the manga, it's more based on the light novel that is actually written by, I do not know who is written by, and I do not know the studio who is behind Clockwork Planet, but based on the things I've heard about the light novel, it is apparently really good. And the protagonist, Naoto Miura, which I believe is his name, if it's not, then I will have some sort of annotation on screen correcting myself. But if it's not his name, I'm really sorry, and if I mispronounce it, I'm also really sorry. I'm not Japanese, obviously. Basically, from what I could pick up from few like summaries of the light novel and few things that I could pick off of my anime list and the preview, is our protagonist is kind of a oddball out. He's not really the liked one. He's not the very popular one, and I guess he's created his own clockwork world, and all of a sudden one day some automaton who's also a girl, which that's already great. That's a good anime in my books. There's a girl in it. It's typical like boy meets girl anime, but I really think that this has the opportunity to go somewhere. If the really cool steampunky clockwork gear vibe is gonna like be a consistent thing in it, I think a lot of people, including myself, will like the animation style and will end up liking the anime itself. But since I really don't have enough to talk about it, I'm going to end Clockwork Planet's little showcase off now, because 4 more, and this video is probably going to get pretty long at the end of that. So let's go. There are 2 animes on this list that have already had their first pilot episode released, and let it be known that while writing the script, those episodes were not released. So I basically wrote them and based my ideas around the fact that I had no idea what was going into it. So this next segment might seem a little forced almost, because I have watched the first episode of this anime and I personally did like it, but I will not be talking about it blind as I would be some of the others. Next entry on our list is Roku Danashi, or Akashic Records of a Bastard Instructor. I don't know the whole Japanese romanji name, and I am too lazy to go look it up and pronounce it because it is long, so I'm just going to use the little easy English name that I can. Based on the first preview, I'm pretty sure a lot of people, including me, are going to assume that this is some harem ecchi school anime, which I'm pretty sure it basically is. But if you look a little deeper, you might actually get some fairy tale vibes from it. And for those of you who don't know, fairy tale is another anime which during its early days had very great magic animation, in my opinion. And Rokudenashi actually kind of copies this style. I wouldn't say copy, but their style of animation with the magic they use is very fairy tale esque, which I absolutely love because I love fairy tales so much. But enough about that. Our story revolves around a girl whose favorite teacher was replaced by some bastard, arrogant instructor, as the title implies. And throughout all the previews, you can kind of see this instructor being painted as sort of a not very likable person, but at the same time, he seems like he could be badass. He seems like he'd get the job done. And I mean, there's not really much to tell except for the cool fighting visuals, I think. The really weird school costumes, which you'll get into that if you actually watch the anime, which I've watched the first episode, and might I say, those midriffs, man. As you can tell, I don't really have many things to say about Rokudenashi, except for the fact that it's kind of have a sort of fairy tale animation style. It's got a Konosuba style humor, and it's gonna be that same school instructor type that we all love. I don't think the instructor type is actually a type of anime, but if it is, then who knows? On to the next one. Our next entry goes by many names, from Danmachi to Dungeon Ni Dio, I don't speak Japanese, to Dungeon Harem, also more formally known in English words as Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Now, this next anime is actually a Season 2, not a Season 1. Well, when I say Season 2, I use that in the loose terms. It is a second season that is based upon an anime and based on the same story and universe, but, well, actually, I just misinterpreted it. I said based on the same story, but it's not. Season 1 of Danmachi actually follows our main protagonist, Lux something, Cornell I think his last name is, and tells the story of how this man ends up having a harem and he wants to find love in a dungeon. Season 2 came along and said, fuck you, we're not giving you any closure, we're actually going to follow a different story. So this story is actually going to be called Danmachi, is it whatever, any title you want, Sword Orario. This different plot storyline is going to follow one of the female leads of the first season, Ais Wallenstein. Based on what I've heard from the manga and the light novels of this series, it's actually really good and kind of outshines the main series, which is kind of weird because usually it's the main series that outshines everything else, but people have always told me that Sword Orario is actually a lot better than the original Danmachi just because you don't see the story from the point of view. What did I just say? Sword Orario isn't from the point of view of a weak Bucks Cornell. I can't even speak English. Sword Orario is told from a perspective of a more powerful, more confident person, except Ais Wallenstein is a bit of an airhead, as you guys who've watched Season 1 will know. Either way, I'm going to watch it. I want to see some more Dungeon Harem, and maybe we might even see some more Lux and get some more closure on how his story is going to go and end. Yeah, on to the next title. Next anime on the list is going to be called Renai Bokun, or otherwise known as the Very Lovely Tyrant of Love. Renai Bokun, just with one look at it, you can already tell what this anime is going to be. Harem, ecchi, awesomeness, I guess. But this is the harem ecchi awesomeness that we've all been waiting for, we've all needed. Well, I guess that I've been waiting for and that I need, but I'm sure some others out there need and want this as much as I do. Maybe not as much as I do, but you never know. Some might even call this anime the harem ecchi version of Death Note. Why? Because there is an item in this anime called the Kiss Note. This Kiss Note has magical properties that when people's names are written in them, they will end up kissing and falling in love in a magical, spontaneous, crazy way. Sounds familiar? Because it isn't. Death Note, people died. The end. Our main protagonist ends up getting his name written next to his crush's, so basically he has to end up kissing his crush, or else anime ends, and we don't want that, do we? Plot twist though, it turns out his crush has a massive obsession with him, borderline yandere. Gotta love that prefix though, am I right, fellas? Oh, I love you, you know, please don't kill me. So while most of you will probably be looking at this anime and saying, I really don't want to watch any more harem ecchis, I've already seen loads of them, I personally will agree with you. I've seen many harem ecchi animes, and they're basically just out of a copy machine, just a couple different colors, a couple different names, and it's really, when you look at the top of it, it's really the same. But every now and then you'll find one that's not like the others. You'll find one that's actually good, and I firmly believe that Renai Bokun is going to actually be good for a couple of reasons. One, I kind of like the fact that one of the main love interests seems to be Yandere, which if she is, that's really cool because I love Yanderes. And two, the drawing style for each of the characters is not very unique, but it's not like something I've ever seen before, which I think will be really cool to see. Like, well done, well animated. Everything else, like the buildings, all seem like regular animation, like any other anime would do. But the character drawing, just, it looks different to me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the way I think. Maybe it's because I'm a noob at anime. Who knows? I probably all of the above. But enough about that. I believe Renai Bokun is actually based off of manga. I kind of forgot to talk about that on the other ones, but it's not that big a deal. So let's go ahead and get into our fifth and final entry, which is personally my most hype of the season.
これからは死神ではなくグリと呼んでください。どうせ一回キスしてたし。
The last anime we're talking about in this video is a season 2 again, just like Don watched before, and the name of it is Boku no Hero Academia, otherwise Englishly known as My Hero Academia, which is the name that I personally like to call it as. This season, oh man, I talked earlier about how I've already seen a couple episodes of a few of the animes on the list, and this is one of them. I have already seen the first episode of this season, and I have to say I have not been more excited to see anything else than I am now. I am really hyped for the rest of My Hero Academia Season 2. Opening is awesome, the ending is awesome, the new visuals are awesome, and even if I base it off of things I didn't know from watching the first episode, I could tell you with my other rudimentary knowledge is that the storylines that this season will most likely cover are very good. I have read all the Englishly released mangas that have been released in the US, so I've read up to volume 7 of My Hero Academia, and I have to say that the arcs, which will be covered, I guess it's not a spoiler if I say what the name of the arc is, which they're going to be called the Sports Fest arc and the Stain arc. They are very, very awesome. I don't know what other word I could use except awesome for them, honestly. If you watched the first season and you enjoyed characters that weren't part of our main cast, such as Bakugo, Izuku, All Might, Tenya, and Uraraka, then you are going to love this season because this season just starts. It's going to go over everybody. I mean, it's a festival, contest, carnival. What is the word for that? Tournament arc. There we go. Sorry, I completely blew blanked. Yep, there we go. As far as I can remember, the previews all show tidbits of the sports festival arc, which is probably the lesser of the two arcs that they will most likely be showing, which I can understand because obviously if they want to go in chronological order as the manga did, then they will have to show off the Sports Fest arc, and they don't want to spoil what they're going to be doing for the whole season. But another cool bit about My Hero Academia Season 2 is the fact that it is going to be actually 2 cores, and it should, as far as I'm aware, be 25 episodes. If you guys are interested in underdog superhero animes or like school animes that with cool, crazy fantasy powers, then you guys should definitely check out My Hero Academia. I highly recommend to anyone who is even thinking about watching anime or likes anime in general, then this is going to be a great pickup for you. And if you don't like it, then I will eat my sock. Yeah.
Torque over, reciprocal burst!
Let's go!
I'm not done! Gotcha!
Piece of cake! You won't succeed! Although you support companies out there are watching this!
There's no way you can do better than me!
I have to live up to the expectations of everyone who's helped me. I will beat you! My Hero Academia. The new season starts April 2017. Plus Ultra!
In the making of this video, there were a couple of other animes I really wanted to talk about, but I just didn't have the enthusiasm or knowledge about them to talk about it. So those honorable mentions are as follows: Attack on Titan Season 2, Boruto Naruto Next Legends, Grand Blue the animation, and Recreators. Sorry, I kind of mind blanked. I actually just had to go off screen and like check 3 times because I honestly did not remember the name of it. Honestly, I have no idea where I want this channel to go. I just know that I want to be as otaku and as weeb as I can on this channel because I have another YouTube channel which I do gaming videos on, but it's not really the type of environment I could really bring this type of video onto, which is why I kind of made this channel in the first place. So if you guys like my stuff, please be sure to leave a like, comment, rating, favorite. I don't think you could rate and favorite anymore. That was like 2008. and most importantly, sub. And as the channel name implies, make sure you always +1. And that was so cringy. I'm never gonna do that again. I honestly, by next time I make a video, I'll think of some cool catchphrase. Like, Plus Ultra! That one was even more cringy. I'm never doing that again.